The following program contains archived content. Some of the information may now be out of date.
Welcome everybody to my podcast, Big Little Small Talk. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan and I love to talk, but I also love to listen. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello listeners, welcome along to Big Little Small Talk here on 40DB, and this is our segment where I get to go out and talk to someone interesting in the community, and today I'm talking to a young incredible girl called Shenae Ciesiolka. I hope I've said that correctly. And I've been trying to track her down for a while because I met her a little while ago at a Sports Darling Downs breakfast where she was presenting an award to a young girl. And I spoke to her afterwards and she was just such an interesting girl and had such an interesting story to tell. But if I literally was trying to track her down, I couldn't have because she's such an athlete. She, at the moment, is a rugby league player. So welcome along, Shenae, and thank you very much for having me here today.
That's all right. Thank you very much for having me on.
What I want to know about is the surname Ciesiolka. Where does that come from?
Yeah, so it's actually Polish. We had a family reunion not too long ago, and it's not as far back as I thought it was. But yeah, it's actually Polish, so it's pretty interesting. But obviously all the sporting things I go to and stuff like that, people obviously struggle to pronounce it, but yeah, they eventually get there in the end.
That's right. It's the Ciesiolka.
Yeah.
Ciesiolka. So how far back is the Polish connection?
To be honest, I don't exactly know, but it's probably like pretty sure it was like my great granddad. So it's not really like too far, but yeah, we had a family reunion out at like Bitterstone and Albany because that's where the Ciesiolka name's sort of like out there, and yeah, it was just really interesting. There's a lot of Ciesiolkas that still live over there. We live in a little place over there that still has like no electricity or water to the town. So
this is in Poland.
Yeah,
not in Bitterstone.
No. In Poland, it still has like no electricity to the town. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to sort of hear that. But yeah, I'd like to know more about it eventually. But hopefully we have another family reunion sometime soon.
You'll have to get there over there. And Shenae, did you grow up in Oakey? Is that correct?
Yeah, so I grew up in Oakey, was born in Toowoomba, but pretty much lived in Oakey till I was about 16.
Mm-hmm. And what were Mum and Dad doing in Oakey?
Yeah, well, we sort of grew up there, like all my family is still there, like Nan's there, all my family sort of grew up in Oakey, and as we've got older, we've had one family like sort of move out here to Westbrook, and then we moved out here, but I still have like two sides of the family that live in Oakey, and all Dad's side live in Oakey as well, pretty much. So yeah, they were just working out there. Dad used to work at the abattoirs, and then he started like doing pest control, and then Mum was working at the bank out there at the ANZ Bank for pretty much over 20 years in Oakey, and then she worked at the hardware for a bit, and then she ended up going to the RSL, and then now she works at Pittsworth at More Trailers. So it was pretty much my brother and sister. We were all going into town. My sister was, she'd finished high school at Oakey. She was going to uni in Brisbane, but my brother was like doing an apprenticeship in town. My dad was working in town. My mum was the only one in Oakey, and then I was going to school at Glennie in Toowoomba. So it sort of just made sense for us to move. So yeah, we moved when I was in year 11 or 12.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about your mum and dad a little bit later on because I imagine being the parents of an elite sports person must be quite a toll for them in terms of what they have had to do to support your career. But I'll just tell the listeners, we're sitting in a room which is literally the pool room where it has got the pool table, but, all of the trophies, and there's all the life-size pictures of Shenae. So tell me, you are an elite athlete. Your mum and dad, are they athletic as well?
Yeah, so Mum was sort of like an all-round athlete, just like pretty good at everything. And Dad used to play football and, was quite skillful and stuff like that. But he was actually a Queensland javelin thrower, which is really quite random and a random sport. So, I can't throw a javelin to save myself.
Right, so he competed for Queensland?
For Queensland, yeah. I think he even maybe got a record or something when he was about 15 or 16. Yeah, he was like a javelin thrower, but he was pretty much, same thing, like pretty fast, like all round, pretty good at everything as well. So,
okay.
So they were just like, a lot of my mum's side of the family, like not really my mum herself, but her sisters were all like Queensland swimmers.
Wow.
Yes, they were all swimmers, and then my auntie, she was a Queensland swimmer and netball as well. So sport sort of runs pretty strong in the family. Yeah.
And your brothers and sisters, you said all these trophies in here aren't all yours. Some of them belong to your brother and sister. What sort of sports are they good at?
Yeah, so my sister, she did gymnastics and she completed level 10. So that's obviously the pinnacle of gymnastics or heights.
It doesn't go to 11 or anything.
No. So she completed that. So that was sort of her goal, just sort of growing up, is to get her level 10 badge, is what she did. But she was a very good gymnast. And then my brother, he grew up just playing all sorts of sports as well. But his main sport was rugby league, and he played pretty much till maybe like 5-6 years ago, and then he did like his knee pretty bad. So he just never really did the rehab and just sort of, couldn't afford to get injured with work and stuff like that. So, he was really talented at rugby league as well.
What a shame. So that brings me to where you are now in terms of your career. And I want to talk about your sports career, but you are a student, and what are you studying?
I'm studying a Bachelor of Education at USQ.
At USQ.
Yeah.
And were you going to do primary or high?
I'm doing secondary,
Okay.
So high school,
and what subjects will you teach?
So it's been, I'm doing PE as my major. And then I was doing biology, but it was too hard for me with travelling with sport and everything. Like, they had a lot of, obviously, lab schools and stuff like that, so I wasn't able to sort of get there. So then I changed to special education, which is something that really interested me. And then I just got a message from the uni one day saying they no longer do that course, and because I'd only done 1 or 2 subjects out of the 5 for my minor, they said I had to change. So if I'd done 1 more, they said I could have stuck through the course with that, but because they said they no longer offer that anymore, as it's not a sort of specific part of school anymore. It's more...
It's not in the mainstream?
No, it's more like... It's not really special education. It's like more like an inclusive classroom. So I ended up changing, and I'm doing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander studies now, which is pretty cool, because I was looking at, like, probably getting a job with the Broncos, like, down the track. It's like a student support, like, development officer. So that it's like they have it in Toowoomba. They go around to schools and help the Indigenous kids at school and help them with their schoolwork and just have a chat to them and just be like a mentor. So excellent. I guess with that, the only thing is sort of like the teacher thing, the Broncos footy, everything was there. It was just like sort of like my background knowledge, because...
And did you get any credits for the special ed stuff that you done?
Yeah, I did, yeah. So a lot of them are like special interest course, so they can cross over to mine. Okay. So it's not like they were a complete waste.
Right, yes, and credit points.
Yeah,
well, that's,
they cross over.
That's a busy schedule. And you're working as well?
Yeah, so I was working at Glennie at the school, but it's just pretty hard at the moment because we're in season with the Broncos, so... I'm down in Brisbane Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So it's just so hard at the moment, obviously, to try and fit it in. So it's got like little part-time jobs here and there. I got a part-time job at Glennie, and then I got a part-time job with the NRL. Then I got a part-time job with Queensland Touch. So there's lots of things happening, but it's just so hard sometimes to fit in that with training, then with uni, and it just gets a little bit too much sometimes.
And then some pesky person who wants to do a community radio interview with you. So again, right. I say thank you. So now, we've touched on it a couple of times, but you are a rugby league player, and you're currently playing for the Broncos. So tell me about playing for the Broncos. I want to hear all about State of Origin. I want to hear all about the grand final, and I want to hear about Rugby Sevens. So you told me the day that I met that you were playing Rugby Sevens in Japan, and you had to come home for COVID. Is that kind of where it started? Or
yeah, so pretty much like when I was in school in Year 12, like Rugby Sevens was pretty new, and coming from touch football, the skills are quite transferable. Obviously not the tackling side, but the skills are really transferable, the passing and all sorts of stuff like that. So a couple of the girls played sevens, and they just said, come and try. Anyway, so I went along to like the first ever tournament and, played sevens there. And I was just lucky enough not lucky enough, obviously it was hard work as well. But straight from there I made Queensland, then made Australia. And then went over to China for the Youth Olympics.
Oh, China, right.
No, but I did go to
Yeah,
went over to Japan, China for the Youth Olympics. And then it was the following year then was like the Youth Commonwealth Games in Samoa, which was pretty cool. So we were lucky enough to win 2 gold medals at both of those, which was like pretty awesome.
And so then this is representing Australia in the Rugby Sevens, and you won a gold medal, 2 gold medals.
Yeah, one was at the Youth Olympics and one was at the Youth Commonwealth Games. So that was probably, obviously under 18, that was like obviously like 2 biggest highlights, which was pretty awesome.
But you had already won a gold medal in touch football, hadn't you?
Yeah, well, touch football. I played for Australia. We ended up beating like New Zealand in a whitewash. It's called. So you play like a series of 3. So we won all 3 against New Zealand for touch. So. Yeah, it's pretty exciting, but it was pretty cool to go to China for like the Youth Olympics because it was, mirroring the actual Olympics. So they made us an Olympic village over there, and we stayed in like a Youth Olympic village over there for 2 weeks and got to be part of the whole experience. So that was pretty exciting.
And is it a similar sort of thing where you have the walk-in and like the cauldron being lit up and all of that?
Yeah, like literally everything. Like it's the whole like village lights up. It has like Youth Olympics everywhere. It's like the dining room. Like it's got all little stores inside the village. It's pretty cool.
What was that like, kind of walking out or standing on the podium and hearing the Australian anthem?
Yeah, it obviously means so much. Obviously, to go over there and represent your country and to hear the national anthem being played. And Obviously the Australian flag being raised is something that, you can't even describe how it feels. It's very touching, and it just appreciates you, obviously, just being Australian. So, yeah, and then I got obviously contracted with the Australian Sevens once I left school and moved down to Sydney for 2 years for that. So I was down with the Australian Sevens. I was part of the Rio squad to go to the Olympics. Obviously being realistic about it, I was never going to make the squad. I was 17, 18, had just moved there, and, it was like a development player. So, but it was awesome just to be part of that squad and help the girls that went to the Olympics and train alongside them and help them get there. So, it was obviously a team thing. So that was really awesome. And then I was there for 2 years, and then
Can I just interrupt you there for a second? So when you're obviously in the running to maybe get chosen for that team, for that Olympic team, and how many people get chosen and how many people are there as possibilities?
Yeah, so we had a squad of about 24, and then it was like 12 that went, and then 13. So they take sort of one extra or two extras. So
Was that a time in your life where you hadn't actually made the team? Everything else.
I get what you're saying. Yes and no. Obviously, I didn't make it, but as I said to you before, I was being realistic about it. You're 17 years old. You've only played the sport for a couple of years. There's girls that have been in that program for 3 or 4 or 5 years. I was being realistic about it that potentially Tokyo 22 or something like that. But it obviously is tough. But obviously, I was being realistic about it and sort of knew where I stood with everything like that. So, so then I played that, and then I come home, and I actually had a really, really bad knee injury. Did my ACL, MCL, LCL, meniscus, pretty much every single thing in my knee. So that put me out of rugby for about a year. It was 13 months.
What did you do in that time?
What did I do in that time? It was really tough. Obviously, being an elite athlete, that's what you do every day. You train, and to not even be able to, walk. I used to, obviously, some days were harder than others. You'd see somebody walk outside with their dog, and you just think, I'd love to be able to do that. And
I can't even do
it's
that.
It's just, just going from being so used to training and doing that every day of your life to not even being able to get up and walk. So that was really, really challenging mentally.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, were you quite depressed?
Oh, most definitely, it was really hard. And obviously, I've had injuries in the past, but, as soon as I sort of knew I did my knee, that's a whole year out of sport. And I actually found it quite difficult to go and support the girls and watch because, I know that might sound a little bit selfish, but to be in that environment and just being around and seeing them, it was really quite hard. So, I probably should have focused on my uni a bit more in that time, but obviously I just sort of try to focus on my recovery and just took some downtime just to...
Right, and you're doing rehabilitation during that, are you?
Yeah. So I was in a brace for, I think it was about 8 weeks, which is a little bit longer than normal people, or not normal people, people that just do their knee, but I did mine quite really bad. So I was in it a little bit longer. And then I got out of that, but I didn't have my first run until I think it was about my first jog in a straight line for about 6 months. So that was even a bit behind.
And at that stage, did you ever think that you wouldn't make a full recovery?
Definitely not, no. I was obviously I knew I was young and I was fit, and there's obviously plenty of people and elite athletes that have made a comeback before. So still to this day, I don't think my body's ever been the same, and obviously things have changed. My whole left side sort of compensates now for my right knee, and you pretty much got to teach yourself how to run again and get your muscles firing again and stuff like that. So I don't think it'll ever be the same. As my surgeon said, it's not the knee that God gave you. So it's obviously had my hamstring taken and replaced into my knee where my ACL was. So it's just the body adapting and getting used to that again. But it's fine now. It feels good. It's probably the strongest it's ever been. So, just got to trust the process, obviously, and do the rehab and just listen to the people that know what they're talking about.
Yes, well, that's right. Trust the experts and hope that your private health cover is all in order, I would imagine. I'll just remind the listeners that they're on 40DB with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and we're talking on our Big Little Small Talk segment to Shenae Ciesiolka, who is an elite athlete, and she plays rugby league for the Brisbane Broncos, and we're just up to the stage where she's coming back from an injury and hearing about her incredible journey and where she's been in her career. So you come back from the injury.
Yeah, so I come back from the knee injury and was back playing, pretty good footy, and my goal was to get back in the Australian squad, and I was currently then a part of the development squad, so they'd sort of fly me down to Sydney and I'd train and stuff like that. So I was back sort of, in the running to get back in there, and obviously COVID happened and pretty much everything just got cancelled, everything got put to stop. Obviously no overseas travel, nothing like that. So everything sort of come to a stop, and I found myself sort of sitting at home for probably like 6 months, not having any sport or because it had all been cancelled. So I ended up getting a phone call one day just from the Brisbane Broncos coach. I was literally at home sitting on my bed, and he just said, I'm, Kelvin Wright, the Brisbane Broncos coach. Obviously, a couple of the girls in the Broncos. I've been talking to them, and, they think you'd like fit in perfectly. Would you like to come and try and play rugby league? And I straight away just went, this is an awesome opportunity. Like, I've been watching the girls on TV, and I always said to mum and dad, like, one day I want to try rugby league. Maybe when my sevens career is over, but then, don't want to leave it too late, but I'd love to just sort of have a crack at that. And I sort of was talking to him, and I just, said I'd have a think about it and get back to him. But what was that about? And he goes, you're going to have to go into the bubble, which potentially means you can't work, you can't do anything for, I think it was about maybe like 12 weeks, maybe 9 weeks or 12 weeks or something like that. So he goes, you'd have to, give up your job and give up everything, and you were happy to stay in Toowoomba, you just have to travel to and from, but obviously you can stop to get fuel, but that's literally it, and you got to stay at home. And I thought, okay, like I have to speak to my work and stuff like that, and uni was fine because I do it online anyway. So I thought, I'll have a think about it, and and I said to him, I haven't played rugby league since I was 12 years old when I used to play with the boys. So I was almost thinking in my head, like, what if I'm not very good at it? Like, I don't want to be like, anyway. So he'd obviously seen some video footage and stuff like that, and obviously he'd rang me for a reason. He wouldn't if he wasn't, happy with what he's seen. So I had to think about it and sort of chat to mum and dad, and then spoke to like work at Glennie, and I just said, look, like, here's an opportunity I can't knock back, it might not come around again, and nothing's happening with sevens. So I sort of had the intentions of going back to rugby sevens and trying to balance the both of them, but obviously being in the rugby league environment and being around the girls and stuff like that, I just loved it. So went into the Brisbane Broncos and played my first ever game. Actually, I was on the bench for the first round. I'd only been training a couple of weeks, and I was on the bench for the first round just to see what was happening and get a feel of it. And then the next game, actually, one of the girls in our team actually got injured, and the girl that was on the wing moved straight into the hooker, which was where the other girl got injured, so I slotted straight onto the wing. So it was sort of like just get thrown on the deep end, there you go. But I think that was the best thing that ever happened, because it soon made you realise and soon made you just learn, once you get thrown straight in there, it's like, bang, this is it. So played my first ever game and debuted, which was like really exciting. And then, the Broncos obviously been really successful, winning 2 premierships, and we ended up winning a 3rd premiership. So
that they had already won 2 premierships, and then you were playing in the grand final. Is this how?
Yeah, so they won 2 premierships like the previous years, and this was like the 3rd year, so they were going for the three-peat, they call it.
So you came in sort of mid-season, did you?
No, it was the first round. So the season's so short. Like literally last year, in 2020, we only had, I think it was like 4 round games and then semis and finals. So it was only a really short round. So I only missed the first game, and then played the other 3, and then played the semi and final. So I was still there from the start, but I just missed some of the pre-season at training.
Okay.
So
the Broncos win that premiership, the grand final.
Yeah. So we played the Sydney Roosters actually down in Sydney, and I remember it was pouring rain that day. It was freezing, pouring rain. It was before the men's grand final, and it was obviously a tough game, tough conditions, and we ended up getting the win. So Brisbane Broncos, obviously some of the girls had been there from the start. They'd won 3 premierships, and I ended up winning my first ever premiership for the Brisbane Broncos. So I think the most exciting thing was we got a premiership ring, which was pretty cool. So
I notice you're not wearing it now.
No, I don't.
Is it similar to the men's one?
It's similar to the men's, just I lost a lot less diamonds, that's for sure.
So, can I ask, for you to come in, does that mean that someone else went out, or?
Not necessarily, because we have a squad of 24, and there's obviously girls that are on development contracts there, and then some that aren't. And as I said, it just was, it wasn't obviously great for our team, but it worked out sort of good for me that the one girl sort of, got injured, slotted in, and then it sort of just worked out like sort of in my favour. But I didn't knock anyone else out of their spot, no.
Okay. And do you always play as the winger, or did you then have a bit of they shift you around a little bit?
Yeah, so that whole year I played on the wing. Obviously being new to the game, I was also probably more comfortable there. But, since playing then I've sort of played a bit of fullback, a bit of centre, and stuff like that. So I've been training at the moment in centre, so we'll see how that goes.
You're saying that to me like I know what that means, but I'm just nodding and saying yes, okay. Well, I would imagine, what I wanted to know was the difference in skill set between playing the sevens and the league. What sort of thing?
So yeah, obviously in sevens you've only got literally 7 people on the field, and it's a full like size football field. So there's obviously a lot more space. So you can use your footwork, you can use your speed. There's a lot more space around. Whereas obviously in a game of rugby league, you've got 13 on the field. It's a lot, it's a lot harder to sort of get through the gap, and you're more or less running into a brick wall of players. So I guess their plays are just a little bit different in terms of sort of block plays, and as in running sort of decoys and stuff like that. But as I said, like, it's football. The skills are so transferable. Sorry. So touch, sevens, rugby league, they're all. You're passing a footy, you're stepping.
Similar,
it's
right.
Similar,
and
yeah.
do you have to... I heard an interview the other day with a guy who was like a cage fighter or something like that, and he just said, you don't even worry about being hurt. Like, you know that you're going to hurt, so your pain threshold sort of... You just don't even worry about it. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, it's like... I think it's like anything. If you go out there thinking you're going to get hurt, you most likely will. So even at training, we just get told to go 100% because of... you sort of go 50%, it's likely that you're going to get injured. So I definitely don't go out there thinking, oh my God, I was going to get injured. And obviously, sometimes you look at the other team and think, oh yeah, like they're pretty big girls and, they're going to be tough to play. But I guess also you've got adrenaline as well. So you just go out there, you might get a few knocks and bruises and that obviously hurts. But, it's more or less after the game you think, oh, this is really sore now because obviously you've sort of cooled down. But when you're out there, it's just adrenaline. You sort of just push through the pain, to be honest.
And do you wear a helmet?
No, so I don't wear a headgear, no.
Headgear?
That's all right. A helmet, yep. No, I don't wear a headgear. Some people do. Some girls do. I wear a mouth guard, obviously. But
yes.
I'm also a little bit slack in my mouth guard. I shouldn't tell my mum that. But...
Don't say that. Your mother who paid for those beautifully straight teeth, I'm sure. So we win this premiership. Now tell me about State of Origin.
State of Origin, yeah. So I was very surprised. So... we actually won the premiership, and because we were in the bubble, we ended up having, obviously a few drinks after the premiership that night at the club. We couldn't go out, obviously, anywhere, so it was just our...
Can I just interrupt quickly?
Yeah.
What's the drink of choice for an elite athlete?
Beer.
Beer, okay.
Well, not for some of the girls, but I love beer. I'm from Toowoomba and Oakey. What do you expect?
Well, that's another
but
thing
I
we've got
think
in
the girls
common.
just had some like lolly water and that, but I was, a beer girl. So
okay, keep going. Yep. So you're in the
bubble.
groggs,
so yeah, we had
come
come back to the clubhouse and had a few drinks and stuff like that, and then we had like Mad Monday, so we got some like dress up, and we're at the club just having a few drinks and stuff like that. And this is actually the day that I just got a phone call from this literally a random number, and I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. Anyway, I listened to the voicemail. It was just like, hi, it's Karen Murphy here from, just part of the Queensland Women's State of Origin team. Can you just give me a call back? So a lot of the girls during the day were getting phone calls here and there. So, she just said, when she answered, she said, do you mind just going away from the girls and just going somewhere quiet? So I just went for a walk out the front, and I was on the phone to her, and she literally just said to me, she's like, oh, congratulations. Like, how do you feel about coming to the State of Origin, like being a part of the State of Origin squad and coming to camp? And I was a little bit like mind blown. I just sort of didn't really say anything at the time. I was just like blunt, and I was like, what? I was like, are you saying I'm in like the squad, like for Queensland, the State of Origin? She's like, yeah. And I was almost just like, crap, like really? And like, everyone had a few drinks around, but I was just like, really? I was like, I've played my first ever rugby league women's game. I've played 4 games of rugby league my whole life, like for the women. And I've won a premiership, but now I'm being selected for the State of Origin squad. I was like, what?
Even when you said it, like a chill went through me.
Yeah, I was just like, really? And I felt kind of bad then, because she's like, oh, like, are you not even excited? And I was like, oh, of course I'm excited. I just I was a bit shocked, and I was like, that's awesome. She's like, she said to me, what are you doing the next 2 weeks? And I was like, nothing really, just a bit of work here and there.
In the bubble?
Yeah.
When were you allowed out of the bubble?
Yeah, so we were allowed out of the bubble pretty much after, I can't even really remember, but pretty much after we'd gone back, after we've had a few drinks and that, and then on the Monday, I think we had to wait maybe like another couple of days to go and get a test again to be negative, and then we could go out. So I think it was pretty much we had to get tested before and after we went to Sydney, and because we'd been in Sydney for the grand final, we had to wait and come back and then get tested again. So I think it was actually it was the Monday that we were actually there at Mad Monday. It was the people come in and tested us, and then when we got a negative result, we were fine to go. So
So what did training for the State of Origin involve?
Yeah, so we it involved going into camp for 2 weeks. So it was up at the Sunshine Coast. So we went into camp for 2 weeks. So we stayed up there at Twin Waters, at the resort up there. So we were literally there for 2 weeks, again in the bubble. Couldn't leave the resort, couldn't see anyone.
So you're playing with girls who had formerly you'd been playing against, I would imagine,
yeah,
in
for
the
sure.
Premiership. So
Most definitely.
Yeah. So how was the relationships there?
Yeah, it's obviously like a lot of the girls from Queensland in the past, like the other players had known each other and stuff like that. For me, being someone new, it was just, I'd known a lot of the girls anyway because we'd only really had a couple of, like Broncos was the only sort of Queensland team then.
I see.
So we'd only really had a couple of the Broncos players and some other girls from a couple, like played for another couple of clubs, but we'd sort of known them as well anyway. So, everyone got along really well and, so we were in camp for 2 weeks and then it led to the big game on a Friday night, which played New South Wales, and it was obviously, a really good game, and obviously it was great to have obviously just a crowd there just for the women's, because it has a separate to the men's the game. So, we've only got one game at the moment. The men obviously have a series of 3, so that's hopefully we're pushing to get eventually to have a series of 3 as well. But we just had the one game and ended up beating New South Wales, which is always a great feeling.
Score, please.
I don't even remember the score the first year. I remember the score like the year just gone, but the first year I think we beat them a bit more comfortably the first year. I think they ended up coming back and scoring a couple of quick tries in the end, but I actually can't even. That's really bad, isn't it?
Well,
I wanted to take the score. Yeah,
well,
it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, so I suppose it was just an incredible run, wasn't it? Like everything had happened so quickly and so fast for you, that all of these incredible highlights. So tell me about sort of the equal pay for the women and sort of where the status of women's rugby league is, and where you want to go and what you need to do to get there.
Yeah, most definitely. So we got told by the QRL, so the Queensland Rugby League, that the women are going to get equal pay to the men. So it's obviously the game's still growing, and obviously we're getting a lot more viewers and stuff like that, but it's obviously come a long way in the last couple of years. Like, we've had girls in the squad that have played there for the last 10 years and, they used to have to pay their own way for everything back then. So it's obviously come a long way since then, and it's still got a long way to go, but it's good to obviously finally get some recognition and acknowledgement of the women's game. So
why has it changed? What changed? What was the sort of leap, do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't honestly know. Like, it's obviously, accumulation of things. Like, it's obviously, there's more people watching now, there's more TV rights, and they're getting Channel 9, or they're getting Fox on board, and they're obviously getting more crowds, and that's why they wanted sort of like a standalone crowd to in a game, to say that everybody's here, or everybody's watching on TV just to watch the women. They're not watching the men, they're just watching the women. So
you said that you played on the Friday night, and is the sorry to say, but is the men's game, is that on the Saturday night or the Sunday night?
No, so ours is a completely different even time. So we were not even, we weren't even like, sort of like the dates weren't even the same this year or last year or whatever as well. So
okay.
They were around similar times.
Similar season.
Yeah, similar times, but completely separate. But I guess obviously more sponsorships coming on board, and as I said, the game's getting more recognised worldwide as well. Obviously, this year, like, it's a World Cup coming up, and it's getting recognised.
Tell me about the World Cup. Where's the World Cup?
So the World Cup is in England this year. It was meant to obviously happen last year, but it got cancelled due to COVID as well. So the World Cup's over in England at the end of this year. I think around maybe like November. They haven't really said an exact date, I don't think, just yet. But
so when will the team be chosen for that?
Yeah, so this year looks a little bit like different because we've had the 2 NRLW seasons. So last year, obviously with COVID, our season got cancelled. So we were playing club footy all last year, and then that was meant to go into Origin, which still happened, and then that was meant to go into NRLW at the end of the season. So we had an Origin again last year, and that was a lot tougher game than the other one. We were lucky enough to beat New South Wales 8-6. Remember the score on that? We got a conversion penalty goal to get the 2 points to end up beating them, but yeah, that was like a really tough game. So that sort of went into that, and then NRL was meant to start, and then it sort of was saying it was going to happen, then it got postponed, then it was going to happen, and then it got postponed. So it was a bit hard for us as athletes because we were sort of training as a pre-season, doing our own training for about 7 weeks, and then it's cancelled or postponed. So then you'd sort of taper off, and then, oh no, it's going to happen again. So then you do a 7-week block again. Oh no, now it's cancelled. So it was sort of really hard. We were sort of all over the shop, but They end up making a decision in the end that it was too hard to, fly the Sydney teams up here and put everyone up here in accommodation, and obviously with border closures and stuff like that. So it got cancelled. So we're finally here now at the start of, 2022, and we've had the season from 2021 is now the season being played at the moment. So it's all over the shop, yeah. So this year, for what it looks like potentially for us, is we have the 2021 NRL season played at the start of the year, and then we go into club footy, which overlaps a little bit. So we won't play a lot of club footy this year. Then that goes into Origin. Then that goes into the NRLW for 2022, and then that goes into World Cup.
Wow. So you've got a lot of footy to play this year.
Yeah, for sure.
By the
So,
sounds of it.
it's the most football ever in the year that the women will be playing. But that also makes it difficult too because, as an athlete, you can't peak all year round. So, you obviously, if you're trying to peak all year round, you're going to burn out and, potential injuries. So it sort of makes it hard to sort of peak and sort of go up and down. So, there's obviously people to help us with stuff like that. But it'll be a very, very big year of footy.
Well, just remind the listeners that they're on 102.7 FM, community radio, and we're in our Big Little Small Talk segment where I'm talking to someone interesting. We've got someone very interesting today. She, like me, is an elite athlete. Shenae Ciesiolka from the Broncos rugby league team, and she's telling me all about her year of training. So tell me about training, what does every day look like for you? Yeah,
so we start pretty much about 3 o'clock. So you train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, except Saturday's the morning. But the 3 days we start at 3 o'clock. So we arrive at 3 o'clock. We drive in our car to training. We get there. We drive right up, and our coaches come out with a COVID test. So we sit in our car. We get the COVID test. We put it up our nose, mix it in the thing, and then we give it back to the coaches, and then they go and put it in the little machine thing. And we go sit in our car for 15 minutes, and then they end up messaging us or giving us a call, come out to our car and say, yes, you're negative, yes, you're positive. If you're negative, obviously, sweet, off you go, you walk inside. If you're positive, you get in your car, you go drive home, and then you go isolate for your 7 days. We've only had that happen to one girl at the moment, so touch wood, we're all pretty healthy at the moment. So, if you're negative, you go in, you walk in, and pretty much we do like a prehab, which means you go and you stretch and you roll and you do some screening. So you do a couple of tests to see, test your muscles to see what's tight, what you need to work on, or what you need to do. And then you can put we have it's called Smarter Base. We have it's like your physical status. You can enter how many hours you slept, how your body's feeling, what muscles are sore, are you fatigued, which is obviously tells the physio and the coaches how we're feeling on the day. So we do all that sort of screening and stuff like that, or we might go see the physio and get strapped. And then we go into some more pre-ab stuff, so we just do some exercises to get our muscles moving and stuff like that, and then we go into gym for about an hour. So we do gym for an hour, then we have maybe a 10-minute break where we can have some protein or something to eat, and then we put our boots on and we're out in the field for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we come inside, we do a stretch, we do a roll, and then we go do an ice bath. We just do 5 minutes straight. And then we pretty much have showers, and then off we go, we run away. So pretty much we get there at about 3 o'clock, and we're finished by about 8:30. So it's lots
5
happening
hours.
in that time. Yeah,
so that's 3 afternoons and 1 morning.
Yeah, the Saturday morning we start at about 7, and we're done by about 11:30. We normally have a barbecue after training on a Saturday, which is good.
And on those off days, are you going to the gym or doing any exercise in those off days?
So on the off days, I might have a physio appointment or a massage or something like that. But obviously at the moment I've had a lot of uni assignments and sub-Gs, so it's not the best or ideal for the body. Obviously going and running at training and say running 7K and then going and sitting down and doing uni, and obviously parts of your body get so stiff because you're just sitting in a chair all day trying to do uni. So on the off days we try and just relax and recover, and if we find a pool somewhere or the beach, it's obviously
I
really
wondered
helpful.
whether they wanted you not to do something or they wanted you to do something. Is there all of that level of detail into your life, sort of in terms of
sort of our days off, and a lot of people obviously still have full-time jobs, and or some of them are even mums, so they're always busy. But days off are pretty much up to whatever we want to do.
And
to
in terms
recover.
of the support and the, because we all hear about these bad rugby league guys, going off the rails spectacularly. Is there that support around you, Shenae, like in terms of like psychology appointments or sort of, grooming or, lessons in sort of how to handle fame and all of that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we have obviously like welfare, like people on board with us at the Broncos, and every club has like a welfare manager that we can always go and speak to, whether it's about anything. Could be about uni, could be about, home life, could be literally about anything. So, we've always got people to talk to at the club there, and we do have, a couple of education people come in and talk to us about stuff like that, what it's like to be in a professional environment. We do some media courses, so it's obviously, how to deal with the media and, if you get journos message you or stuff like that, how to respond to them, what not to say and stuff like that. So I think that's really important. Obviously, I've obviously been around for a while and had that in obviously the Sevens program as well, but I think it's really important for a lot of the young girls that are coming through that have never had that sort of training. So, obviously for myself too, I might hear something one time and then hear something another time. So you're always learning. So it's always good to, obviously listen and take all that feedback on board.
And are most of the girls, you said some of them are mums, are most of them local people, or do they recruit from sort of the regions and stuff? Or you're from the regions, but like say you talked earlier about sort of Indigenous kids. Are there any Indigenous girls playing?
Yeah, so we obviously, a lot of our girls are mainly based in Brisbane. We've got a fair few from the Gold Coast, probably like 5 or 6 from the Gold Coast, and then myself and my cousin are from like Toowoomba, but the rest is all in the Brisbane sort of area. We've got a girl from New Zealand that comes over, which obviously has been quite hard with obviously the border closures and stuff, but she's finally over, which is good. And then we actually have a girl this year. I played Sevens with her as well, so I've known her for a couple of years. She's actually from Thursday Island. So yeah, she's actually living with us in Brisbane at the moment.
And you play with your cousin as well?
Yeah, I play with my cousin, yeah. So this is pretty exciting. She, same as me, she was sort of playing Sevens, and then, nothing was really happening with COVID and stuff like that. And so, she started playing rugby league as well for club, and she obviously, a good little player, and ended up getting a call up from the Broncos coach as like a development sort of player. And but she's been going really, really well at training. So, it'd be awesome to obviously, if she debuts to do it alongside her cousin, that'd be a pretty good story to tell.
Is she Ciesiolka as
well?
No,
she's not, because her mum and my mum are obviously sisters, so she's obviously been married and got a different name. So that would be pretty cool if that was
two Ciesiolkas.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about the Valley Diehards. That's Wally Lewis's old club, my husband tells me, correct? So are they... You're playing for them, or you're not playing for them? They're in opposition, or...?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a touchy subject, this one. So the Valley is obviously, Diehards have been a club well established for, years and years. As I said, Wally Lewis has played for the club, and they've never had a women's team. So in the QRL, it's like the best comp in Queensland for the women's. The club went to them last year or the year before and said, look, we want to get a women's comp in the game. Scott Prince is going to be the coach. We've got these people on board. We're going to get Ali Brigginshaw to come across. We've just got to get the numbers. Would you support us? Anyway, the QRL said, yes, we'll put you in the competition for the first time. Anyway, we got a lot of girls to the club. We would have about 30, which was like pretty solid for, club footy training each time. So we're training for that, and end up being the first year we were ever in the competition. There'd been Burley and a couple of other teams that had been there for, a fair few years, and we were the first ever club in there. Anyway, we ended up being minor premiers, so we went the whole season undefeated, minor premiers, hadn't lost a game all season, and we lost the grand final to Burley. And we were winning until about the last maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and they scored and they ended up beating us. So it was obviously tough, but we just thought, wow, this is the first time the club's ever been together, the first time they've ever had a women's competition, and we've been minor premiers and runners up in the grand final. Like, what a successful club, what a successful team. So we thought, how good is this? We're going to be building on this for the next, say, 5 years or something like that. So looking forward to it. Anyway, the QRL ended up coming to us and saying that Valleys or Wests are no longer going to be in the comp next year, because we're going to align the QRL sort of women's competition to like the Intrust Super Cup for the men, and Valleys aren't in that, and neither are West. So they brought Wynnum into the comp, and then South Logan back in. So pretty much the QRL thought that we would just sort of leave Valleys and all of us girls would just go to Wynnum or South as a new club, but we obviously had a lot of respect for Valleys as a club, and we're going to obviously put up a bit of a fight, and we're wondering why, and we end up finding out that obviously Valleys was a team. We're obviously trying to be positive, but first year the team was ever in the club, in the comp, it was so successful. West were, well-established club, they'd been in there for years, so we sort of knew we were going to be the ones to go. So the QRL sort of said, yep, you're white from the competition, that's sort of it. So it was, a one-year thing, and we just, it's so disappointing for the club, because it's like, well, they've just invested so much into these women, and obviously been so successful, and to turn around and say you're no longer in the competition after being so successful
is that a different competition to what you're in now with the Broncos?
So that's the competition below. So that's the Queensland competition, so club.
Okay.
So that's the club, and then Broncos is the NRLW. So the club is below Broncos, but you've got to play club to be able to make Broncos and then to make Origin.
Oh, with you, right.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, okay. So it's like same as the men. The men is obviously like a little bit different, but a lot of the NRL players that don't make the NRL will go back and play Intra Super Cup. But our club is pretty much, it's the Queensland women's competition. But NRL is obviously Australia-wide, like obviously playing New South Wales teams, whereas the Queensland comp is just all Queensland-based teams.
And I think you and I ran into each other at a Toowoomba Clydesdales launch not so long ago. Do you think there'll ever be a women's team here? I mean, I think if we can't get a men's team here in the Toowoomba region, it might be struggling to get a women's team. Yeah,
it's obviously like really hard, and obviously like the higher calibre of players are obviously leaving Toowoomba because the competition's sort of just not there, or the quality of competition. So I know a lot of talented men and female that are obviously leaving Toowoomba to go to Brisbane to play in a better competition. I think that's just obviously the hardest thing about, being a community like Toowoomba, and it's like, you get that everywhere. A lot of the good players got to move to Brisbane or to, suburbs that have got the facilities and stuff like that. So, it'd be awesome to obviously get a women's team up and running in the next couple of years, and obviously hopeful for that. So anything that we can obviously do, or, as players to sort of help and push that would be awesome. But it'd be great to see,
because they do talk about Toowoomba being sort of the gateway to the West, and a lot of really fantastic rugby league players come out of sort of the West, and we're losing them. It's a bit like the brain drain, I suppose, but it's all about the money, isn't it?
That's even like obviously when I was like going back to sevens, like when I was in the Australian sevens, I think out of say 24 of us, there was about 7 of us from the Toowoomba region.
Really?
Yeah, like,
an
which is
statistic.
Incredible. Yeah. So it was like really awesome just to see that, people from Toowoomba, whether it doesn't matter where you live, you can achieve, great things. Obviously you got to move, but
either that or there's a lot of mongrel in us or something
that
like that.
must be it. Yeah, something in the water that we're drinking.
I do love that's right. I do love to quote that. I read somewhere that there's an overrepresentation of CEOs on ASX listed companies that are from the country, and they say it's because country kids have an incredible sort of ingenuity and stability and resilience. So maybe it's the same thing with rugby league players.
Could be possible, yeah. Maybe just brought up tough.
That's right.
Tougher breed from the city kids.
We like our beer. We like our rugby. But one thing my husband does say about we talked about the ring earlier, and trying to get the status of the particular all women's sport, but we're talking rugby league now, of course. He says until people like me, pointing at me, until more women watch sport, it's never going to. You're never going to be sort of at an equal level, because there's not enough people sort of championing him for it. Do you think that's true? And how do you get women to watch it, sport?
Possibly, like it could. Like I even know, like a lot of men, they make comments on social media and stuff like that, like about our State of Origin game, saying this is better than the men. But
right.
I'm just like, they're like, the women's is a great game to watch. It's better than the men. Like we enjoy it more, But you're always going to get people that don't. People that say, you get the rude comments. Women don't belong on the football field; they belong in the kitchen. Like you're always going to get. But that's just life. That's just, you're always going to get people like that. So, and everyone's going to have their own opinion on it. So, I think, the more people know about it, I guess, the better. But it's also obviously, everyone knows about the men's rugby league and stuff like that. So, the women's rugby league, as it's still so new, but whether it's social media or it's sharing things or, and people say to me sometimes, oh, I've heard about it, but I don't know where to watch it. And it's like, well, it is no different. It's on Channel 9 or it's on Fox like the men, but it just doesn't get advertised as much, or they just don't hear about it. So
you make a really good point there.
I think it's definitely a lot of things that contribute to as to why, but I guess obviously, if you get more women on board, but more people in general, it's going to grow the game.
You just talked about social media there. Do you get trolled a lot? Because you're the most beautiful looking, fine, blonde hair, blue eyes, very fine looking girl.
You get some very interesting messages, and that's for sure. Just like you just delete them, but you get some very
nothing too kooky.
Oh, you just get some really weird ones, but it's you just look at them and just be like, what the. And you just delete them, but all the girls get them. It's just you just ignore them and just delete them, and but I don't know, you probably get 2 a week, I'd say, just random, and they could be fake accounts too. You just don't know, but it's just.
I think it's all part of life. Before I let you go, I wanted to. I said earlier about your mum and dad, like. What sort of things you hear when you go to those Sports Darling Downs breakfasts? I hear about people training in Brisbane 5 times a week, and mum and dad driving. Mum and dad are always there at the awards. And is that your parents' life, just driving your kids around?
Yeah, most definitely. So it was always really hard when I had myself, my brother, and my sister were all playing sport at the same time. So that's where also Nen come in. She used to have to take one of us to one sport, mum would take the other one to the other sport, and then dad would take the other one to the other sport. So, Nen used to help out a lot as well, and, she obviously still loves to come and watch, and, whenever she can come watch, she'll come watch. But, obviously mum and dad, have obviously even just the financial, my mum tells me if I was never born, she'd be rich.
Wouldn't we?
Well, I don't know about that, but she's like, the money you fork out, and kids' sport these days is not cheap. So, even growing up in school, I was doing AFL, I was doing soccer, I was doing cricket, I was doing touch, I was pretty much whatever you can think of I was doing. And, I was really fortunate that, whenever I made a team, my parents would always, obviously fund the money and say, yeah, you can go, or I'd get all the gear. And, I know obviously a lot of kids these days are, not as fortunate as me, and their parents don't have the money to, support them to do that. So, I'm obviously very grateful for mum and dad and, how they've supported me over the years. But also, obviously, we're living in Oakey, and I was doing gymnastics at the time in Toowoomba. So, we'd go to school, and then, mum would pick us up, my sister and I, from school, and it'd be about 3:30 in the afternoon. She'd drive us into gymnastics in Toowoomba. She might go do some shopping, or she'd literally just sit around from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night. And then she'd drive us home, and we'd be getting home at, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and then having to have dinner and try and do our homework, and then go to bed, and we'd do that all again 3 or 4 times a week. So it wasn't even that. You'd be, as I said, you'd be in Brisbane every weekend, or you'd be, when I was with the Reds and with rugby, mum would have to drive, 3 or 4 times a week to Brisbane. And I guess I was just lucky enough there was another 2 or 3 girls from the Toowoomba region where the mums would carpool or just do 1 day a week, so it sort of broke it up a little bit. But I even think now, obviously being older and having my license, just thinking, when I was living in Toowoomba but still being in Brisbane, I think, I'm just so sick of driving myself to Brisbane all these 4 times a week. And then I think about it, mum used to do that all the time, but then she had to sit around and watch us train, or sit around and then wait. So it's
there was a lot of sitting around for your mum. I hope you were never bad-mannered and grumpy with her, or just looked at your phone all the way home,
probably
or anything like that.
But
fell asleep.
Yeah, obviously,
exactly.
The amount of financial money they've put out for us kids, and obviously the support they've we're pretty lucky. We've sort of never missed out on anything. So be forever grateful and forever owing them a lot of money.
Oh, well, it's a sacrifice you make for your kids.
Yeah,
I'm sure your
definitely.
Parents wouldn't have it any other way. I'm sure they're
obviously
incredibly
they're
proud of you.
proud of seeing how successful we are as kids and what we've achieved. So to see how far.
But big shout out to Nan. Not that I stalked your social media profile, but I have to do something to get my information. So I see that Nan turned. Did she have a big birthday?
80. Yes, she did. So she wanted to go on a cruise. That's all she wanted to do for her 80th, and go on a cruise. And obviously, COVID and everything like that, it didn't happen. So we sort of planned as a family what we were going to do for her. As she just classic Nan. I'll just have a picnic at the park with some sandwiches. And we're like, no, we can do that any day for you. We can do that tomorrow. Let's do something cool. And we ended up organising to go over to Tangalooma. So we thought, we're going on a boat over there, and we organised a really nice lunch, and then we all had a weekend down in Brisbane. So I think out of the family, it was just, she had all of her 6 kids there. and then all of the grandkids. I think there was this one grandkid that couldn't come because she just had a baby. So my sister come down from Mackay, and so she had literally every single grandkid, every kid of hers there. So I think there was about 30 of us. So we all jumped on a boat and headed over to St. Gloomer and had a nice lunch, and then went back and just took her out for dinner that night. And then, she loves playing the pokies sometimes. So they then come back to Toowoomba, and we went to the golf club and took her out for lunch the next day. And
I reckon I don't know Nan, but I reckon if I was Nan, I'd be pretty happy with that. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, she loved it. Yeah, as I said, she just said it was so special to have all of her kids there and all the grandkids there. So, a lot of people don't get to see that milestone in their life, so to be able to celebrate that with her was something tears me up.
Yeah, and me too. I feel teary thinking about Nan sitting there watching your career on the telly. Does she?
Yeah, she loves it. We get the paper and we say, "Oh, Nan, I'm in the paper today," and she'll be getting the car and she'll drive down to the news agency and she'll buy the paper and she'll cut it out and put it on her fridge, and she'll always be messaging saying, "Hey, can you send me some photos?" or "That's just great love." And
she needs to be showing off to her pokey mates.
Yeah, or sometimes she literally says, she goes, "Oh, I seen you on the news tonight," because she watches the news every night still, whereas I'm never home to watch the news. So she'll end up messaging me, say, "Hey, Shenae, seen you on the news tonight," and I'm like, "Did you? What was I even on there for?" She's like, "Oh, for this." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, Nan." She's like, "You didn't see it?" I'm like, "No." But yeah, she never misses anything. She sees everything. And
I love your Nan. Now I'm running out of time, and I'm going to have to wrap this up soon. But as listeners would know, I like to finish off with a few kooky, not kooky questions at the end. And so, Shenae, you're a young person. I don't think I've ever been able to ask this question of anyone else I've had on Big Little Small Talk, because it might be a bit embarrassing, but it's okay for you as a young person. What's the worst pickup line you've ever heard?
I've definitely had a few, that's for sure. I know, probably one that I've had, I don't have it in my phone, remember, but one that I had was like, "Do you have a Band-Aid?" You probably heard this one. No. Yeah, I'd scrape my knee falling for you, and I was just like, "Oh, okay."
Oh,
but I was like, that's a pretty, you got it?
Yeah.
But I was just like, "Oh, yeah, right." But no, I've had a few.
Did it work for that person?
No.
No, that didn't work. So out there, if you're ever going to use "Do you have a Band-Aid? I've fallen for you," don't use it. It's not worked on Shenae.
Don't use it, not working.
Okay. What about if I asked you if you could store one type of food in your pocket, what would you carry?
Oh, I don't know. I like my food, but
You'd eat a lot of food as an athlete, wouldn't you?
I do. That's probably one thing I do struggle with, though, is trying to put on weight, because it's just, obviously in pre-season stuff you're running so much, so it's, to maintain that weight's pretty hard.
Wouldn't we all love to have that problem?
I'm not the biggest of eaters. Like, I like to snack, but big meal's not great. But I love lollies, to be honest. I know that's not going to be very nutritious or get me through, but if I could always have a lolly in a pocket, that would probably be it.
A lolly, oh, how lovely.
Not chocolate, just lollies.
Just lollies. Do you like, your pineapples or your...
literally any. I'm a bit of a, anything sour, like sour worms, sour warheads, anything. Not
I did
good for
ask
the
this
teeth.
question in the very early days of Big Little Small Talk, and it was a lady who was learning to fly out at the Clifton School of Flying out there, and she was a lovely lady, and she said most unusually fruitcake, because it's got all of the all of the, not the 5 food groups,
but what you need
it's
to
just it's very heavy and it'll keep you going. So I thought that was.
I don't think lollies are going to keep me going very far.
they'll keep your sugar levels up anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. What about what's your favourite celebrity scandal?
This sounds really bad. But I don't really follow any.
Well, you're too busy.
I know, that's the thing. And it was I don't really I don't have time to, you know what I mean, watch TV or read articles and stuff like that. I'm always just busy. But I thought the Britney Spears one.
Now, was that when she shaved her head?
No, it's the conservatorship, how she's been...
when she got out of that with her father.
I think that's just it's probably been quite recent, but I just found that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you guys, you might be creating the scandals in the rugby league world.
Could be
rather than watching them. All right. Well, I'll let you off that scandal. So, I always ask someone this song because often Paddy Menz, who this segment is played in his radio show, Community Talks, and he will often play the song that you tell me. So, what's a song that can't keep you off the dance floor?
This one's tough. I'm always there's so many songs that come on, you're like, oh, I want to dance to it. But then when you ask me or you think about it, it's like, I can't think of one song.
You can't think of one song?
But I think maybe like Whitney Houston, Dance with Somebody.
Oh, yeah. That's
Surely
a good
that
one.
gets you
Yeah, a good belter, that's right.
Surely.
Yeah. Wanna dance
But
with
yeah,
somebody.
but then I'm thinking of like songs that are like, sort of like now, and I'm like, I don't know if you guys would know them, but that's an all time. That's an all time one.
You can't be ageist, Shenae.
That's
We know at 40dB we have a wide scope.
That's
of
an all
music.
time one, I reckon.
All right, and my very last question, because I'm a secret royal watcher, and that all sort of fits into the favourite celebrity scandal. Who is your favourite royal?
You're gonna say so boring. Don't have one.
Don't have
No,
one.
don't have one.
Do you know any of the royals?
Yes, but like Mum she follows them, but I literally
Not interested.
not really. Like, I'm not saying not interested.
Yeah.
I just don't really have an opinion on it. I just sort of, if it's on the TV, I'm like, oh yeah.
What about Australian royalty? Are we talking?
See, I'm just all sport. Just
All sport. Okay. Well, what about
who's your favourite royal?
Oh, well, now she's turning the books on me.
Who's your favourite?
Well, I think if I had to say, sort of at today, tomorrow I might have someone different.
So
Do you know who?
changes someday.
Yes, you know who Princess Margaret is? So she was the Queen's sister, and she was kind of like this naughty sister who smoked and drank and sort of because
Got a
she
bit of
lived
sass.
lived in the shadow of the Queen, and she got married to I think it's what's his name, Mountbatten. So, and unfortunately she died quite early because she used to spend her whole time sunbaking and partying. So I'd say Princess Margaret
She
today.
had a good life.
She had a good life.
Well, that
yeah.
sounds like she's my favourite too.
You're a bandwagon type person.
Bandwagon.
Yeah. Princess Margaret.
Bit of
That's
sass, bit of
a bit of get up and go.
Yeah.
Well, that typifies you, I would say.
It's always like,
yeah.
I know, I look at like when you coach your kids or something, it's always like that one kid that's just a little bit naughty, but like a little bit of sass, but then just got a bit of character about them is the one that's the most entertaining, I'd say.
I'm with you. And
Or
with
you
that,
can connect with.
we'll finish up our interview, Shenae. It's been a pleasure having you on my Big Little Small Talk segment, and thank you for making the time for
That's
me.
all right, no worries. Thank you very much for having me.
That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me on Big Little Small Talk. I hope you can make the time to join me next week. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favourite podcast app.